Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 of our deep dive into the awesome world of toy photography. In our previous episodes, we explored the qualities of light and delved into the debate of flash versus constant light, along with a plethora of light modifiers tailored for toy photography. But today, we're shifting our focus to a crucial element, lenses. No pun intended. Oh, and just a quick reminder, I won't hassle you to hit that subscribe button just yet. But if you're vibing with what you see, I might gently nudge you later on. Cool? All right, let's dive in. Hi everybody, I'm Kersten Luts and you're watching Platypod TV, brought to you by Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. So buckle up as we explore my go-to lenses. I'll walk you through these 2 shots and I'll show you exactly how I made them. Ready? All right, let's get to it. For our lens showdown today, I've handpicked 3 gems that I find indispensable for capturing action figures. My trusty 105 macro, the versatile 50mm 1.8 known as the Nifty 50, and the powerhouse 70-200 zoom lens. But before we dive into the specifics of each lens, let's cover some basics. There are 2 key aspects we need to grasp: maximum magnification and minimum focusing distance. Why are these important? Well, maximum magnification tells us how our subject will appear on the camera sensor relative to its actual size, while minimum focusing distance indicates the closest we can get to our subject. It's worth noting that minimum focusing distance is measured from the subject to the camera sensor, not to the front of the lens. That's the working distance. And if you're wondering how to locate that, well, just look for a small symbol on your camera body indicating the sensor plane. Macro lenses, like my beloved Sigma 105 macro, boast a maximum magnification of 1:1, meaning they can capture subjects true to life size. With a minimum focusing distance of 31.2 centimeters or 12.3 inches, it's perfect for getting up close and personal with our Lego pals. Compare that to the 70-200 lens with a minimum distance of 5 feet, and you'll see why macros are the go-to choice for our Danish miniature friends. Now, you might be wondering about the differences between a 35, 50, and 100mm macro lens. Well, it all comes down to working distance. Wider lenses require you to get closer to your subject, leaving less room to maneuver lights and modifiers. That's where the 105 macro shines. There's plenty of space to set up your lighting setup without crowding your tiny subject. On the flip side, wider macros offer a broader view, allowing you to showcase more of the environment. Both options have their merits. It ultimately boils down to the type of shot you're aiming for. Now, while macro lenses are undeniably fantastic for toy photography, they can put a serious dent in your wallet. So, do you really need a macro lens to capture stunning images of action figures? Well, the truth is, you don't. Enter my second favorite lens, the trusty 50mm prime. It's a staple in most photographers' arsenals, and this basic 1.8 Nifty 50 won't break the bank. However, there's some trade-offs. With a minimum focusing distance of 45 centimeters or 17.72 inches and a maximum magnification of 0.5 times, the Nifty 50 doesn't let you get as close to your subject as a macro lens would. This means your minifigs might appear smaller in the frame. Take a peek at this comparison of minimum focusing distances between the 105 macro and the 50mm lens. While the macro gets me right up close and personal, my yellow pal looks a tad more distant with the Nifty 50. No worries though, the 50mm lens excels in other areas. It's perfect for wider scenes and slightly larger action figures, like this epic showdown between Darth and Mando. For scenes like this, the 50mm lens is an absolute gem. However, when it comes to those intimate close-ups, like the one of Lego Darth from last week's video, the 105 macro steals the show. Now let's shift our focus to the third lens in our lineup, the classic 70-200 zoom. With a minimum focusing distance of 1.5 meters or 5 feet, you'll need ample space to work with. While its maximum magnification is similar to the 50mm lens, take a look at how differently it compresses the background. Quite a difference, eh? So what's the bottom line? Standard lenses like the 50mm prime, a 70-200 zoom, or even your trusty kit lens can deliver stellar results, especially when photographing larger action figures or capturing expansive scenes. However, when it comes to our tiny yellow Danes here, a macro lens is the way to go. But what about wider lenses, like a 24mm or 35 for instance? Well, if you're dealing with larger subjects, like this bad boy here, then wide lenses truly shine. Ultimately, it all comes down to what you're aiming to capture. Choose your lens based on the size of your subject and the desired composition of your shot. Now, as promised, let's dissect our first shot. In this epic scene of Mando and Darth duking it out on a distant ice planet, I opted for my favorite 105 macro lens. To keep both minifigs securely in place, I positioned them on Lego bases and elevated Mando using a paperclip wire for that extra height. Don't fret about the wire though, it's a breeze to remove in Photoshop, literally takes 1 second. For the backdrop, I utilized a screen and crafted an icy landscape using Adobe Firefly. To seamlessly blend the foreground and create a snowy terrain, I sprinkled baking powder. It scales beautifully and adds a realistic touch to wintry scenes. To achieve authenticity, I illuminated Mando from behind using a lume cube paired with an orange gel to mimic the sun's position and color in the background image. For that menacing red lightsaber glow on Darth and the snow in front of him, I employed a tactical LED light with red gel. To balance the exposure, I used a Lume Pro set to low power. It's crucial to be cautious here. Too much power can easily blow out the snow. For some finishing touches, I crafted the lightsaber and blaster effects in Photoshop and added a snow overlay for that extra atmosphere. Personally, I'm thrilled with how it turned out, but I'm eager to hear your thoughts. But don't worry, we'll delve deeper into special effects in future episodes, so make sure you stay tuned for more revelations. Alright, let's dissect our second shot with a good old 50mm lens. For this composition, I opted for larger action figures. Mando stands tall at 6 inches, while Darth commands attention at a towering 12 inches. This size contrast allowed me to play with forced perspective, framing Mando facing the camera within Darth's imposing arm and lightsaber. The subtle blur on Darth adds to the tension, setting the stage for an impending showdown. Lighting-wise, I employed a Panel Pro LED as the key light, complemented by a touch of red gel on Mando and Darth's leg. I prefer to capture lightsaber reflections in camera rather than relying on Photoshop. It just adds a natural touch. To balance the shadows, I introduced an additional lume cube to lift Mando's shadow side ever so slightly. Adding depth to the scene, I spritzed some atmosphere spray for a hint of smokiness, enhancing the overall texture. And there you have it, folks. I hope this video helps you on your path to photography excellence. Also, I highly recommend you check out my buddy Dave the Bearmaker's latest book, From a Certain Point of View, The Ultimate Guide on Miniature Photography. It really is a treasure trove of knowledge from one of the best. If you want to learn more about toy photography, make sure you check out my podcast, the Camera Shake Podcast, where I talk to toy photographers Dave the Bearmaker and Jesse Fireeisen in detail about how they create their amazing images. And if you're not yet following the Camera Shake Podcast, then what are you doing? Check it out on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and wherever awesome podcasts live. And you'll find all the links in the description. As always, take a snapshot of your setup or share your final shots on Instagram. If you've been experimenting with Platypod gear or try out the lighting setups we've discussed today, I want to see your creations. Make sure you tag Platypod on Instagram and use the hashtag #PostMyPlatypod. And if you like this video, we have a button specifically for you right here. Join the community over on Facebook to see what other Platypod users are up to, and ring that bell so you don't miss our regular videos. That, my friends, is all for today. Keep creating, and I'll see you next time.